Hi, my name is Katie Thompson. I'm going to walk us through how to trace more complicated charts in DataThief. This is our first example, and it will use changes in the tolerance and hints to get us to the end of the line. As with any chart, the first thing we're going to do is open our DataThief file. Next, we're going to check our reference points. They already have the coordinates in because I've been working with chart type 5-4046 for other charts that I've been digitizing. So this should be pretty easy to put these in. Don't have to go and look at the length and height dimensions because I already know that they're accurate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the trick that I talked about in the first tutorial to move my reference points, which is holding down the left click button and then using your keyboard's arrow keys to move your reference point. This will give us the most precise recording. Well, chart dimensions, I should say. This one over just a little bit more. Perfect. Now, with our tail, we know that this is our starting point. And then we can put in our ending point, which is very difficult to see. I really can't tell where this chart ends. So I absolutely want to go in and look at the on and off dates. They are difficult to read, but if I zoom in, well, we'll just stay right here. This was 11/20 that it was off, and this was on the, well, it would be on the last day, and it was at 11:20, 6, 8, 10, 12. So this is our 11. 11:20 would be about there. So there we go. We found our ending spot. We found our starting point, which starts at noon exactly, so it's right on the line. The next thing we need to do is put our color. Something that's pretty easy to tell about this chart is that the color is fairly faded, so when I'm putting my color indicator on the chart, which I'm going to use the control or the left click and arrow keys to move it, I want to make sure that I'm putting on a spot that's a nice dark purple so that it knows what to look for. So let's see if we can't find an even darker spot. Oops. Okay, that seems like a good purple. Now, because we can see that there are some gaps or really light traces, which was probably from the pen drying up, we've got one section here and one section here. I'm going to go in and look at my tolerance. We normally start with a tolerance of 3. So I'm going to look at that. We can see that there are still really large gaps. So now let's try a tolerance of 4. Better. You can see our ending spot, but there's still large gaps. Try 5. So with the 5 we can see a lot more of the chart, but with the 4 we really didn't get quite enough of the chart. And 6 we can see the whole chart, all of the writing on it. This is definitely not what we want. My suggestion, if you run into something like this where you're in between two tolerances, this doesn't really seem to give you enough of the line, and when you go to a tolerance of 5 it gives you too much, try going back and looking at your color, and the answer is probably that the color that you got is, so that the purple that we had some of the red in it, so we want to try to find a spot where we can get a darker purple. Let's try our tolerance of 5 again. Still pretty high. Better. So that was just, now we've got almost the entire chart. We can see where it ends. We can see now that this line is definitely not where it ends. It's this one. We can see our whole chart. Perfect. So I just did that through moving around where my color indicator is and paying attention to this box right here to make sure that I can pick up my entire line. So now that I'm all set, I'm going to go Action, Trace. Alright, simple alert, very common. You can see that it stopped picking us up right here. So I'm going to go into my settings, I'm going to check my tolerance and see if that's a spot where it's picking up the red of this line or if it's just that it's blank, so that I know what to do next. So it seems like, I believe it's probably ending right here. It looks about right. Somewhere on this line. It's a very thin line, so we're just going to add in some hints to try to get it to the rest of the way. So we add hints by going Settings, Show Dump. Put them right where we're having the problem. You can even see from the line, just in looking at it, how light it is. So I'm going to add a couple. I'm going to do this left clicking and then using my arrow buttons again just to make it as precise as possible. Maybe 4. Adding in hints is really a trial and error process as far as I've been able to see. I think that you can overhint, but you can also underhint. Putting in the amount of hints you think will allow it to move is usually the best idea, and then you can go in and you can check your trace. Checking your trace is very quick, it's very easy, so it's usually the best thing rather than putting in like 20 hints at a time. So we're still having problems, but we can see that our hint has gotten farther, so these hints didn't work. I'm going to delete them. And our trace got to about this point. I'm going to keep this third hint here. I'm going to add another one a little bit closer to it. And then we'll add that fourth again. And this time I'm going to try, I'm going to try taking and stretching my hint. So you can see this tail stretches, and stretch it across the rest of this kind of confusing pathway. Add a, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th hint, just to indicate that we're going to go up there. Let's try Action, Trace again. Still too many points. Where have we gotten to? We've gotten to this hint. Shorten it. Boy, it really is a trial and error process. Now I'm going to do Control-T to trace it. But now, it's gotten all the way over here. You can see that our trace has gotten to this point, and it's a bit confused, so we're going to just try to indicate to it to keep going on that line rather than getting stuck down here. So add another trace. Or hint indicator, I should say. Action, trace. Control-T. Oh boy. Sometimes you just have to delete the traces that, or the hints that you have. Go in and add new ones. Okay, we've gotten past it. Now I've just got to keep going forward. Huzzah! This is really what I mean by traces being quite trial and error. I'm going to take this hint and try putting it right to my end point because it's a fairly straight line. Okay, we still didn't get there. We got to this trace line. Didn't get past it. On our 1120. Aha, we're almost there. Okay, we finally did it. Let's check it again. We've made it all the way. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 hints. This is really not too uncommon. It's a great example of how hints can really be trial and error. You've just got to kind of have to find where the line ends. So whenever you have a hint and it stops, you want to make sure you get, or whenever you do a trace and it stops and it gives you that alert, you want to make sure you put your hint right on top of it. And then you can keep going, and you can keep guessing. And it really kind of comes down to what color you were able to see, what your tolerance was. You can see it was really getting confused up in here, either from there being too many points for it to try to follow, or too few, the line being too thin. So now we have it. We can save it. We can save it as a text file. It created its own folder for the text files just to make things easier. Look at it. Perfect. There you have it.